Hey y'all, Avry here. For Black History Month, I want to have on members from the third Intermission Podcast, an entirely Black hockey podcast run out of Toronto. It was a fun chat among four Black voices in the hockey world. So sit back, relax, as we get into important issues in the game, a lot of laughs, some Edmonton and Toronto banter, and so much more. The language did get a little blue, so I do want to say, listener discretion is advised.
Yo, what is up? What is up? Welcome back to Avry Sports Show, a very special edition of Avry Sports Show here in February in Black History Month. And if you listen to my show, you see my Twitter feed, I went on a podcast recently with four dudes. Three of them are on the show today from one of the newest sports podcasts in Toronto. It is a Black-centric hockey podcast. It's one of the funniest ones I've heard among hockey podcasts. We got into a lot of topics on Black culture, Oilers, Leafs. So, from the third Intermission Podcast, I want to welcome onto the show Darren, Dave, and Reese.
How's it going?
What's good?
Yo. What's today's date? Wednesday? Happy Wednesday?
Yeah,
What's
happy
good,
Wednesday.
man? What's good?
Feels like a Monday, bro.
Glad to be on the
I feel
show.
like a Monday, but good to be here. Yeah, this is the silver lining of a shitty, cold, snowy week. Excuse my language, Avry.
Hey, hey, we're getting warmer in this country. It's getting warmer in Canada. We're getting out of the snow. Alberta, we are in the polar vortex, which is where Alberta was in this bed of minus 25 or colder. So I'll tell you guys, it builds up character waking up in the morning and see
So
on
it's basically a Tuesday in Alberta, then, is what you're saying.
Yeah. It's a real Tuesday night, eh?
No, that's a lie right there, Darren. No, we
Hold
don't
up,
usually get
let's
that
give you
cold.
a bit of context here.
Days, but it's not.
I was gonna say, let's give you a bit of context here
What
because
context you want?
hold on. Let's break it down for a second because Darren and I live in Ontario, and of course most of you out there in Alberta call us unterrible, which is not true. We ain't that terrible. Y'all just don't like the fact that
that's a new one.
Neither have I.
That's pretty good.
Trust me, from personal experience, I've been out in Alberta, and people in Alberta hate Ontario. And most people from Northern Ontario hate Southern Ontario. Most people from Southern Ontario hate Toronto. And it's yo, what did we do? Apparently we're supposedly the center of the universe.
Yo,
and it's
they're just peanut butter and jealous, fam.
Exactly.
Yeah, you guys don't feel real Canadian right now, real patriotic. A lot of hate to the other provinces.
No.
I'm
We'll
not
trash
Canadian,
each
I'm
A lot
other.
of
Toronto.
hatred, bro.
Yo, we'll trash each other, but then when it comes to say nonsense from south of the border where Reese is, right?
I'm Canadian, I agree.
But apparently people from the States can't.
Yo,
Check, please.
Yo, Dave. Sorry, Avery.
Waiter.
Avery. Sorry,
Waiter.
Avery. That was a long intro. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
wow.
Out of pocket.
That's some old.
What do they do in Hollywood?
Right
And cut.
that's some
And
old
cut.
content right there. That's what
Hey. Those are one of the moments where the director's like, "Why'd you go off script there? Just read your lines."
Shoot your lines, man. Shoot them. They're on the paper. And if you want to subscribe to our OnlyFans, Reese is on there. He's Somali Boy 69. And Avery, go ahead, bro.
Avery,
Oh my god!
I've listened to your show. It's never gone this direction.
5 minutes in, we got off the rails. It's the first. I mean, we got the rails before on my show, but not like this. Not to this level where there's OnlyFans jokes and some Somali Boy 69 comments coming through. That's the first. So all those things that
Oh my
you get your
god.
podcast also. There's a fourth on your show. You have a fourth co-host, Jordan Hales, on your show also. You three here today. It's a blast.
Shout out Sticks.
Yes, Mr. Sticks
Yeah.
on Twitter. It's a blast having him on. And, Listen, first things first, guys. After all the shenanigans we just went through 2 seconds ago, I gotta ask you guys. I'll start with Darren, go to Dave, then go to Reese. I gotta ask you boys here. What was your first hockey memory? It could be NHL, it could be playing, it could be in the backyard. What was your first hockey memories? How you guys fell in love with the game?
First hockey memory was probably like those early '90s Leafs runs. As everybody knows, the Leafs were famously bad in every aspect of badness you can be in the 80s. So coming up in the early 90s, it was it was refreshing to see like the new regime with like Cliff Fletcher and Pat Burns come in and change the course of the team. So guys like Doug Gilmour and Grant Fuhr, and I'm sure you know Grant Fuhr really, really well. And then Grant Fuhr gave way for Felix Potvin and Dave Andrewchuk and Wendell Clark. So those are the times that I really, really, really fell in love with the game. And of course, Wayne Gretzky had to break my heart. And I actually told him that when I met him. I said, I'm still upset about 1993 Western Conference Finals. But yeah, it was around the early 90s when I really fell in love with the game. And then the European, I don't want to call it an invasion, but the influx of European, specifically Russian players, and they played a completely different style that was different from Canadian and American players. Actually, my favorite player of all time is Pavel Bure. My favorite Leaf player of all time is Matt Sundin, but my favorite hockey player of all time is Pavel Bure. So the Leafs being really good in the early 90s and the influx of Russian superstars around the same time is what really made me fall in love with the game.
Nice. How about you, Dave?
For me, there's a lot of memories to like literally look back on. I'd say the first one that really sticks out to me would be like I was randomly watching TV, and of course, like I'm like 5-6 years old, right? So like here I am like flipping through channels like it's nobody's business, and then of course I happen to fall on the Leafs, who were losing to the Vancouver Canucks. Like the Canucks of like say the early 90s, say from like 90 to about 95, 96, like they were a dangerous team back then. So of course 1994, I'm watching the Leaf them get beat up by the Canucks, right? Of course with like McLean in net, and of course the aforementioned Pavel Bure, like literally sniping goals like it's nobody's business, just shooting cans in somebody's backyard. And like I think that was like my first moment of like literally getting into hockey, because it was like every Saturday night from that point forward, it was always like, okay, I can't wait to watch Hockey Night in Canada. And of course, like coming from like a rough neighborhood, shout out to Flemington Park, playing street hockey was a big thing for me growing up too. And of course, I can thank my bad hips to goaltending now, because like, now I have like bare hip problems left, right, and center. But that's a different story. But
Bro,
like,
sure
yeah,
you're not
like,
an old man?
Really I'm like 33. Calm down.
How old? Yo, 33. Dave, I need to see some ID. Bro, I'm older
talking
than
about
you.
your hip, like
I'm older than
you had a
you,
30-year career in the NHL. Because Chris Osgood, he's
in all honesty, like I never stretched before games, so like it always caused me problems. Yeah. It always causes me problems. So it's like I never really realized like, okay, oh crap, I'm supposed to stretch. Like I never stretched before games. That's why like like,
it's not too late to start it now.
Like, tight hip flexors, like playing. Well, yeah, I've got to fix that still. But anyways, let's get back on topic here before I get roasted any harder right now. Of course, watching the Leafs on like Hockey Night in Canada was like a massive staple, especially for like kids growing up in my neighborhood and everything. Like, of course, like random black kids and of course the random hoodmans in the area. Of course, like this is like what 1993, 94, 95, where people weren't picking up a gun and like literally shooting off mans left, right, and center because apparently somebody stepped on their shoes. It's like these were like real beasts back in the day. But everybody in the neighborhood.
the 80s was kind of rough, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, like, I mean, I don't remember the 80s that much because, like, I was born in 87. But, like, I will say that, like, it didn't matter what neighborhood you were in. Like, when 7 o'clock rolled around, literally everybody from the block, like, ran in their house and watched Hockey Night in Canada. And that was, like, a staple. That was a staple in their neighborhood. So that's what sticks out to me the most.
Yo, shout out to Bob Cole, fam.
Yeah, you're the voice
Bob
for
Cole, Harry Neal.
Bob Cole and Harry Neal.
generation.
The GOAT.
They're the voice of hockey. That's the voice of hockey I knew. I hated them other cats.
we'll go to you, Reese. We'll get your thoughts, Reese. You mentioned Harry Neal and Bob Cole. Those are big voices, I think, for all of our youth growing up watching hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like, you know, I was born a first generation Canadian. My parents fresh off the boat. They're from Somalia. So the way to assimilate into Canadian culture was, you know, mom makes food, you know, friends, cousins, relatives, whatever, come over and you find some shit to do. And the thing to do on Saturday nights, while whether it's playing board games, talking and whatnot, is the Leafs are going to be on CBC. And I think my parents were real good about getting me involved into that culture early, and, you know, sharing some of those memories with my dad at a very young age. You know, the love-hate relationship you have with the Leafs. And, you know, he's the younger parent at the time. When I was born, I think he was just entering his 20s. So you know how the sports fandom is in your 20s, mid-20s, a little more invested than any other time in your life. But especially then, it was just a really good bonding moment for us. And especially one of my, I guess, youngest memories was I remember Matt Sundin being acquired. I remember, you know, some of those runs, like the 99 run, like the 2002 run to the conference finals. And it's like, mom wants you to go to bed, you know, reasonable time. You got school the next day, but your dad, you know, is like, come on, it's game 7. You're playing the Islanders. Baby. Yeah, it's game. Yeah, it's game 7.
No, trust me.
Exactly. So it's just like, yeah, you remember the. Yeah, exactly. Back when I would say the Leafs are in a really good place now, but those were like, you know, you had the 93-94 run, and then it was just a little bit of like a gray area where we might suck again. And then you get that beacon of hope. You get a young babyface Swedish kid, you know, with a lot of skill come in, and he kind of just invigorated the city a little bit. And I was, you know, living in Toronto at the time, and it's just you kind of run with it, and he's just scoring all these clutch goals, and all these unsung heroes are, you know, like Steve Thomas and, you know, Gary Roberts and all these guys that, you know, they had something to prove, and they're scoring big goals, and you kind of rocked with them. Like Ty Domi's another one. So, and then my non-Leaf memory as a youngin' was Paul Correa. That was my guy. That was my favorite player in the league. Shit. I loved Matt Sundin. I loved the Leafs, but I also loved Short. My dad used to call him Shorty. You know, learning the English and stuff, but called him Shorty. Small guy, so much skill, so much speed. Could get his ass beat, come right back up, score a goal. Yeah, and I remember that 03 finals versus the Devils, where it was like David versus Goliath almost. Like the Devils just run through everyone on their way to the Cup final, and Anaheim just has no business being there, but hot goaltending from J.S. Jaguar, and then you got Paul Correa and just a bunch of just no-namers going nuts, and I'm just like, yo, this guy is amazing. And yeah, everyone remembers the play. He gets his bell rung, gets up, and you know, after a few minutes of being, you know, checked in what is it, the dark hole, what they used to call it. Now they call it like the concussion tent or whatever. Yeah. But back then, you know, the black hole, you go see if you can blink and, you know, you can follow the finger, follow the finger back on the ice,
bro.
Yeah. And then he goes and scores. Yeah, goes and scores a goal. Carl goes wild. So those are my favorite memories.
Yo, motherfuckers were damn near having seizures, bro, and they would.
Oh my god!
Back on the ice.
I was trying to say this, guys. Yo, the hits that you would see in the NHL from 20 years ago, 25 years ago, today are all at least 10, 15 game suspensions. Like Scott
Stevens.
Yo, that's not even a joke, man.
He'd be out the league.
Trust me.
I know you guys are NFL guys.
Trust
He'd be, what's it? Vontae's perfect.
Vontae's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, yeah. And in his own right, he was a really good player. It was unnecessary, but
He was though. No, we wouldn't know.
So-
One thing I forgot to mention too: NHL '94, the greatest hockey video game of all time, fam. That shit, I was on that game for hours as a kid for Sega Genesis.
Ooh.
on the Sega Genesis.
Super Nintendo.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Super Nintendo. I'm sorry.
That's when we knew Harry Neal and Bob Cole were the face of hockey and like the sounds of hockey, because in the NHL games they would have like Jim Houston and the other guy, and I'm like, yo, these guys are freaking brutal. Where's Bob Cole? Where's Harry Neal? I don't want to.
What?
Jim Houston calling a Leafs game is the worst, because you know he's a Canucks homer. He hates the Leafs.
It's because he never got a spot on the
hate
Leafs.
when he
That's
calls
why.
nationally televised Maple Leaf games.
I like Jim Houston, but you guys talking about, you guys mentioned video games. I'm gonna have a take right here. NHL 94 is not the greatest game of all time. It is not the greatest game of all time.
All right, good night, everybody.
I got 94 and NHL 2002, like right there, right there.
I got dinner to cook, man. I'm sorry, what a bumble
Here's the thing. Growing up as a kid, my experiences with video games, I had NHL games from all different companies. I have NHL games from EA, from Midway, from Acclaim, from 99 Sports. I didn't just play EA games. I played the games from the rival companies. So I will also say, to me, the greatest game of all time, NHL game, for me personally, NHL Hits 2002. That was my game.
Hits was great.
NHL Hits.
That's not a real game, though. That's not a simulation.
In college, that was our drinking game. So,
if they had actually done an NHL Street, that would have been dirty. Let's be honest here.
That's too easy and great of a concept for the NHL to consider.
An NHL Street game.
It's too awesome.
Well, actually, you know what? They kind of did, though. There's a game called NHL Rock the Rink, which they made in 2000, made by Electronic Arts.
What kind of nonsense, Doug?
It's similar to the kind of concept of what that was. Right. And it was very, very different. But guys, I want to get into, of course, just the podcast. You guys have done about 8 shows now on your podcast. I was your first guest on the show. My manager at Yahoo, Arun, was your second guest, which you had on. So, we'll keep things in the family of Yahoo and connected. But I want to ask you guys, what was the impetus for you guys to say, you know what, hey, it's time for us to get into the scene of getting into podcasting and trying to really be that Black-centric voice for Leaf fans who look like us?
This is a question for Dave, really.
Yeah.
I had a feeling this was coming to me.
Mastermind of this.
All right, all right, go ahead, Dave.
So, ironically enough, when
deep in thought on that one.
Yeah,
Dave, are you there?
I actually remember this. I remember this like it was yesterday. But what ended up happening was, of course, we all found out that Wayne Simmons had been signed with the Leafs. What it ended up happening was, I just randomly said on Twitter, Jordan, of course, dropped something on the tweets, and he was just like, Wayne Simmons is actually signed with the Leafs. Now we can actually get some Black-centric interest into the Leafs. And I'm like, I just randomly went out of my way and said, hey, I'd be down to start a Black Leafs podcast. And then all of a sudden, interest started spiking out of nowhere. Of course, not only from his followers, but from random followers too. And of course, with the Black Lives Matter protest still mad fresh, it was it was only a matter of time before I said, you know what, hey, let's give this a shot. So I messaged Jordan, and then all of a sudden I got a DM from Darren. I got a DM from Reese as well. And, the gears started turning. And after about maybe a month of planning and a month of meetings and what have you, and, obviously me trying to quell my anxiety as much as possible, I just said, you know what, let's get this going. Let's try and get an episode. Of course, the planning stages weren't easy. Trying to find a decent name wasn't easy because I was about to call it the Black Ice Podcast for some stupid reason. But everyone would kind of just laugh that off. But after a while, it was just I don't know. It kind of just caught fire, and it just kind of felt natural. And I went with it and everything. And of course, the guys really helped me out, and
now like we're doing this, and it kind of just feels like, you know what, this is like second nature to us now. And I think that's kind of where like it became significant for us, because it was like black people need, like black hockey fans, let alone black people in general, need a voice in hockey. And I was willing to be like, okay, you know what, let's do it in the one area where like black people apparently could not get in the club, and we were trying to get in the club, and like Toronto was the best place to start. And we were kind of hoping to be that catalyst with things, and like, you know, not only help to like tell stories, but like expand the community of like, say, four dudes to like, say, I don't know, like a good portion of the fan base, or like, say, draw like piggyback off of the Raptors fan base, and then just go from there and be like, okay, you know what, like, yo, it's safe for black people to love hockey and enjoy themselves, and not feel like, you know, to not feel like, oh, this is a white man sport, or it's a white boy sport. But like, they wanted to feel like, I wanted everybody to feel like, you know what, everybody belongs in here. And it's like, it doesn't matter what your skin color is, what your ethnicity is, what your sexual orientation is, or any of that nonsense. It's like, yo, if you love hockey, jump on, you know, like literally jump on the train. Like, yo, we got bare seats and bare cars waiting for you. Like, yo, there's a seat with your name on it. Come through.
Absolutely.
No, of course, it really is a show like this. Yeah, go ahead, Reese. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I just want, to follow up on Dave's point. A lot of what hockey preaches and the National Hockey League preaches, and it doesn't always feel like it's the case, is that hockey's for everyone. And it feels like, we're shooting the shits on Twitter. Excuse my language again. I swear like a sailor. I came across Dave's Twitter, and it was just like, man, how many of you folk watch hockey that look like me? Like, I do. Darren does. Sticks is like, not yet, but I will. Avry does. So like, it was almost like a congregation of a bunch of folks. And not to say that the end all be all is that all hockey fans have to be black, but for the first time, it just felt like you could see to your left and your right, or up and down your TL, and someone that looked like you or shared a different perspective, culture, mindset, religion, orientation, other than your old boy, white, affluent, Caucasian, heterosexual, white male, covering hockey and essentially building a little box or a wall around anybody that tries to get in and talk this sports, as they're not credible, they're not it. Because, outside of, for example, Avry, I don't see too, and Black Girl Hockey Club's another one, shout out them, that really infiltrate this space. So it was like, well, if you're not going to let us in, well, screw you. We'll do our own thing. That's how we saw it. And David kind of came with the vision, like, and David and Darren, and then it's like, I've been waiting on this. I love hockey. Like, I've been watching hockey my whole life. Played the game. I play NHL while at work. That's probably why I suck at my real job. playing wow. So it's just like, it's something to look forward to a couple times a week. We watch the game. You almost want to take notes. Like, this is what's going on around the league. Blah, blah, blah. I feel like a news reporter almost. And it's just, but then you record the episode and it's just a bunch of guys casually just talking a shared interest of hockey. And, we have listeners of all complexions and, all backgrounds and faiths, and as it should be. And we just want them to know, and any prospective listeners out there, that hockey can be for everyone. And if, the big entities won't make you feel that way, at least, 4 kids from Ontario will, or 5 guys from Canada, all good looking young brothers. We gonna make you feel like your ears and voice matter in the sport.
That's great. Yeah, that's a really great thing. And with you guys, one thing I love with the show is that you mentioned, he's not here right now, but Mr. Sticks Jordan is on here too. And what I love is that with Jordan is Jordan comes from a more basketball background. He's more a Raptors guy, more a football guy. And from day one, you guys have been educating him on hockey from ground, from the base of certain rules to the culture of the leagues, the culture in NHL, to different storylines. I love that. And it's really showing that, hey, you may be someone who has watched a game like all of us have for decades, or you might be a complete newcomer. This podcast is going to be for you.
Absolutely. And it's just maybe, you always. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
I was gonna say, honestly, we were planning on doing that from the jump, and I feel like obviously at the end of the day, we want to be able to bridge that gap to be from I don't know nothing about hockey, bun hockey, hockey a white boy sport, to be like, oh, okay, you know what, let me see if the Leafs are on right now, or let me see if Edmonton's on, or let me see who's getting slapped up by the Senators, or heaven forbid, it's like, I watched the Canadiens game. It's like Tabernacle Castile, fuck the Leafs. Excuse my language. But we want to be able to,
they make my fans
angry. But honestly, we want to be able to bridge that gap and have the comfort level of literally having hockey available for anybody and everybody involved. And I think that's the biggest thing that we need to do going forward. Of course, if there's going to be a team in Halifax down the road, or a team in New Brunswick or PEI, if people can actually reach PEI without having to do stupid things on Confederation Bridge. But as long as we can literally have the ability to just bring a better culture to hockey, sky's the limit, right?
No,
for those of you that are,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, for those of you that are listening, I'm sorry. I'm just very I'm very blunt and I'm very specific. Obviously these guys will feel like I'm the wild child, but I'm a very mature person once you get to know me. And
we don't feel
that's what they all say. That's what a mature person would say. I'm mature.
You're mature.
Yo, Tutu's, I know Tutu's I'm as calm as they can be. It's just, if you listen to half of my takes on the show, it's Bear Mans will feel like, why you gotta say that?
I think they're money. They're good money.
That is well,
isn't it? Go ahead. Yeah. I was gonna say, isn't that what makes Avry show, our show, a little different? It's and when you're involved in hockey culture, Avry, you've been at these shows, you've interviewed some of these guys. It's almost like a methodical, robotic way that they speak, act, coach, play. There's a right way of doing things, and sure, one method might work for some or many, but I think the way that we cover the sport, the way that we discuss the sport, can be right and work in different ways for different people. And the fact that on our show, we're goofy, we're funny, we'll talk about tweets that we saw about the game. We'll talk about, the fans in the stands, if there were some, the DJ, just any aspect of the game that needs to be covered from a different point of view. And some of it, spurs from the fact that we are multicultural. We come from different households. We see things differently because our mom and dad saw things differently. And, I think the fact that we can add our own flair and pizzazz to the show. And I know I watch your IG lives, for example. It's different than your standard IG live of some of these guys that cover hockey, these men and women. And it's just, there's a little more pizzazz, a little flair. You dress up, you dress up swag. You put on the blazer. How many folks covering hockey doing that? I don't want to see a Bauer shirt. I don't want to see a CCM shirt. I've seen it enough at the rink. But that's just me. So it's why we're comfortable doing this. It's why we want to be in this lane. We want to continue in this lane. And it's just, that's why we show love and respect to someone like you. You brought us on this show, and, we're different, but, the mindset and the goal is we want to approach hockey in a different manner than what is conventionally out there.
I love that. Thank you, Reese. I've watched this game for years. Has needed a shakeup. The game has needed something different. I'm very different in terms of the game. I'm someone, you mentioned, I go on camera. I'm always wearing a blazer. When I show up to the rink, I believe for a very long time, there's going to be somebody there at the rink who doesn't know who you are. It's going to be the first impression of you. And I don't want to be it to be me at the rink be it at Rogers Place or be it at, say, the Saddle Dome or Rogers Arena or Scotiabank Arena, and they see me and I'm not at my best. So that's why I'm at a game and I'm in a three-piece suit, or I'm in a card game with a tie, or I'm looking like $1 million because I want that
Fresh
person.
as hell, man. Sharp like a Gillette razor.
Is it too late? Can I put my shirt on? I got a button up in the closet.
Where's my blazer still?
Big Alex Hitchens over here. What's up, Hitch?
Trust.
No, that is just the Avry style. But I want to say with your podcast, guys, I love the dynamics of you guys have before you, because I look at Darren. He's a historian. He's a guy who can bring, the facts about the Leafs team from the Harold Ballard days, the evolution of the 90s team.
My guy.
Reese can bring the analytics. Jordan's the newcomer to the game. And Dave is the moderator. Dave is the one who's a conductor, making sure that train stays on track and doesn't crash into a wall or crash to unfinished Union Station, which still is not done yet. Come on, what's going on?
The funny thing about Dave is he won't let us crash the train, but if he feels like crashing the train, he'll do that. But only him. Other than that, it's flawless. 99%. We're Beethoven. The symphony is amazing, but it's like sometimes he's just like, what would happen if I say this real quick? And it's hilarious. So, but only him. Everyone else, we got to stay on track, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
It's true, but it works for you guys. That dynamic works, and what I love is that you see a lot of times in hockey, other sports, where you might question if the panelists, truly enjoy each other's company. And when I listen to you guys, I get the feel in every single episode that all four of you guys enjoy being on air together. And to me, as a listener, that adds so much more when I'm consuming your content. I can believe that y'all are fam. Y'all enjoy talking hockey with each other every single episode.
For sure. As it should be. Otherwise, why are we doing this, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't want...
Exactly.
We definitely do, man.
Yeah. So...
Like, think about how your coworkers...
And I'm really glad as a listener, like you've noticed that too, because from day one we have this like natural rapport with each other, and every time there isn't a day that goes by whether we're just recording or we're just talking shit that we're just cracking jokes on each other. Like yesterday we were cracking jokes on Dave all night, you know what I'm saying? But it's all love at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? We have a good rapport, and we connect with the love of hockey and the love of Maple Leafs, so.
Absolutely.
And like
Dave's not the only one that get roasted. I be getting roasted too.
Listen, man.
John, trust me. Half your takes on Twitter are the reason why we roast you in the first place. Like, there was one day where like homeboys thought, I was gonna say there was one day on like we had a conversation where like our lovely American friend Reese here was like, what should I bring to this party, right? Because like, I'm not bringing cheesecake, and like, we all came after him for that, and I'm like, cheesecake is an important dish at any party. It doesn't matter. Like, if I have to literally fly down to Chicago and literally catch a COVID test just to make sure that this man actually knows what's good with cheesecake, then like, it's a thing. Like, he was not getting it. Like, we had to explain it to him like four times.
And it was serious.
Just to tell him like, cheesecake is. Like Darren's keeping his mouth shut about it.
It must be a Canadian Thanksgiving thing.
Must be at your rest, not mine.
Avry, my understanding was
yes. Let me hear this. Let me hear this. All right.
My understanding was, and granted, I'm from a Muslim Somali household, so I didn't celebrate Thanksgiving's every day. Your mom throws down every day. Yeah. So, but I experienced Thanksgiving in Missouri, where I went to undergrad. So a little bit of the South, like it's like a right gap in the middle. Yeah, it's close. But you got people from Tennessee, Texas. A lot of these people migrate to Missouri. It's a red state. It's a little southern. There's a southern feel. And so that was my first exposure to Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. There's a distinction there. And what they bring is the sweet potato pie, the pumpkin pies, the peach cobbler, that stuff. So when someone was like, my friend, she invited me to her Friendsgiving, was like, can I get some cheesecake? I'm like, goddamn cheesecake. Cheesecake. They threw me off, but they got me back on track. They were like, "You gonna get that cheesecake," and I did, and everyone enjoyed it. So I was like, you live and you learn. It was a good play by Darren and Dave. I didn't want to believe them. I really didn't. I looked them in the eye and said, "I don't know if I can do it. It's against my morals and principles." But we did bring the cheesecake. It did happen. So,
yo, that is funny.
yeah,
That is funny. All right, so guys,
little tidbit.
good. So guys, I gotta ask you guys, all three of you guys, what are your thoughts? Well, two-part question for you guys. What are your thoughts first on Leafs performance this year, and secondly, what are your thoughts on the North Division and just how this worked, where it's just a bloodbath of all Canadian teams playing each other 9 to 10 times for this shortened season?
I'll jump in on this first.
Listen, I'm all right. Go ahead.
Hey, go ahead.
I'll jump in on this first. For me personally, I feel like Toronto's obviously done well for themselves. Of course, first in the division, first in the league. Their offensive stats are like extremely stellar right now. Of course, with the fact that like they were first and second in power plays and penalty kills at home, and they were first and second in like shots on goal, goals against, or goals for and goals against. I feel like right now, like they're doing the work that they should have been doing years ago. Obviously, there's room for improvement, and like we kind of spoke about this last night during our last recording. But obviously, there are a few things that do need to be retooled. Of course, going back to even strength after penalty kills, small minor tweaks on like defense, learning to be a little more aware of like be a little more surface aware, not to mention say especially in overtime where it's like, okay, you have 3 players and then you have your 3 players and it's like, okay, who's available, like who's collapsing on what side, and it's like, do you have an open side there where like you can literally just sauce a pass and then score, or type of thing, or like, okay, like where's the next player going type of thing. Like these small minor tweaks are something that these small little things that do need to be worked on. I do feel that like the North Division right now, it doesn't seem like much of a bloodbath compared to the East Division right now, because like the East Division is like literally a game of Russian roulette, and like it's basically 6 bullets and 2 blanks in an 8 barrel chamber gun, and like on any given night, like a blank can actually turn into a bullet. And like by that I mean like the Sabres and the Devils, like they can literally just jump on a hot streak, and the next thing you know, it's like, where the hell did these guys come from? But of course, the North Division like has some very strong and like of course some very diverse pieces in the fold, and of course we were kind of half shocked that Montreal was second in the division. Of course, we were expecting Edmonton to actually be second in the division, and this isn't a knock on the Oilers, but like the fact that like Edmonton's kind of just like literally like the second bridesmaid in this group. It's like, okay, like we were expecting a little bit more from you guys type of thing. We were actually expecting Vancouver to take second, and like Vancouver has kind of just been like, what the hell is going on with you guys? Like the fact that
trash,
the Kachuk,
you ain't gotta dumb it down. Vancouver's been trash, bro.
No,
trash.
No, I know.
Edmonton, they got one of the best 1-2 punches in the league, right? So I understand like your apprehension. I mean, not apprehension, but like I understand your disappointment with Edmonton, and Avery's probably been more disappointed in them than anybody else. Because as I said, they got one of the best 1-2 punches in the league. So, but the fact that they're even behind Winnipeg and Montreal is a bit of a surprise. But we don't know best teams on top, just like we predicted.
Reese, what about you? Reese, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm happy with overall how the Leafs have performed. They're projected to be the best team in the division. They are the best team in the division. When they're on, they're pretty damn unbeatable, and they look like the cup contender that they're meant to be. When they have the ebbs and flows and like the dips in play, it can look shitty, and it's masked by not a goaltender that can get you really over the top. You're going to kind of need your forward group needs to be the engine. You added defensemen to just be average to slightly above average. You added a good top four defenseman. I love Morgan Rielly's offensive ability. I don't love him as a defenseman, period. I like Justin Holl. I like Muzzin. I like the depth there. But ultimately, what drives this team is a forward group. For the most part, they've done the job at a high level. They're beating teams. Is there room for improvements? Yes. It's early in the season, which is why we can't be too high or too low on much of these performances with a lot of these teams. I will say this. I'm surprised that the slow starts of like an Edmonton, but ultimately I see Edmonton being the 2 or the 3 when it's all said and done. You can coach your ass off if you want to. You can't coach to stop McDavid, Draisaitl. That's just the game. That 1-2 punch, there might not be a better 1-2 punch in the league. So they'll get it going. They have to because those two are that good. I see a team like Montreal, like I always see Montreal. Not a lot of skill, but they're coached well. They play hard. They're good enough and they have good depth that they're going to start off well. They're going to hang around. They might even sneak into the playoffs, but they're capped out because they just don't have that top end skill anywhere. Even at goaltending, which was the thing. Hey, everyone, let's have depth. Let's roll 4 lines. Let's be solid. Carey Price will stand on his head if need be. But back then, he was in his prime, and they had PK Subban, who was a Norris winner. So they love Shea Weber, but who's Shea Weber? Like, he's good power play scorer. He hits guys hard. Kind of a middling defense. They're just, I'd like to say 4 lines of a bunch of middling players with a couple young cats, Suzuki and stuff that have top end potential. Gallagher's pretty good, but you compare them to the top end talent of the Oilers or even the Canucks, even the Flames, the Leafs, what Ottawa could be one day with Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, and you think we could use some more top end talent. So I'm not really buying it with Montreal. I'm still high on Edmonton. Vancouver, the one thing with them is, they gave the keys early to Demko, and he couldn't really run with it. And the guy, Braden Holtby, who you were thinking, we're going to give him a chance to kind of get his career back on track, Stanley Cup winner, has been an elite goaltender in the playoffs. I'm not going to call him an elite goaltender over the course of a 60-game starting load, but has been an average to above average starter in that if the Demko isn't ready, that Holtby can hold this down, and he hasn't done that either. So, but you can make that argument with the Flames as well. Their goaltending has been a lot of question marks there. So as a Leafs fan, that I have my moments where I complain about Freddie Anderson, sometimes just getting above average goaltending is good enough, especially if you got everything else going. Having average, questionable to below average goaltending on good teams have good teams looking worse than what they are. Oilers are dealing with that themselves. The one thing is you have 2 of the top 5 players on earth that you might, over the course of a 50 some odd game season, I think that they can kind of regress to the mean a little bit. And their thing is, let's just figure out who the depth among our top guys are versus a Montreal where we're starting off well, but teams are going to figure them out eventually. I don't think Carey Price of old, and who's going to be that go-to guy to get you a goal when you need it. I can name 4 teams in that division that got one. Pettersson has been a little slow, but he can be that guy. Brock Besser's been amazing this year. Got Draisaitl and McDavid. Calgary, you still got Johnny Hockey. That's one of the best forwards in the league. You still have, Giordano's an elite defenseman. You got Sean Monahan. You got some top end guys there. They might figure it out, but I think we're going to put too much stock into the early stages, whether the team is good or bad, and you're just going to have to kind of let this 50-something game season start or, play itself out, because while it might not seem that long, 50-some odd games is still a lot of fucking games. Excuse my language there again. It's a lot. So I think by the 30-game mark, we'll know.
Yeah,
the cream will rise to the top here. So.
Mm-hmm. And you're starting to see a little bit of separation. Of course, we already know Ottawa, what they are. We know Ottawa has had their struggles, and we're seeing the pack start to separate a little bit. Edmonton is in. You know what? Edmonton's a team. It's a team where offensively, you guys are right. There's still McDavid and Draisaitl. These are still the top 1-2 punch in the league. and then you still have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins there as a third option. It's once you get out of there, the question marks begin. And you are seeing development more of Taylor Yamamoto. Yessi Pugliarvi's back in the lineup. Dominic Cahoon they signed this year here. He's been great when you put Cahoon on in a spot role in the first, second line. He's helped out this team. But again, you're right. That's right. It's a goaltending. And last year it hurt me because I was always skeptical of the signing long term of Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith. Mike Smith is a goaltender, and against him personally, but I felt that his game has regressed dramatically compared to when he was that league goaltender back in 2016, 2017. I felt he wasn't the guy you need to sign for 2020. We saw in the playoffs when he was called upon against Chicago. I always said this much in the playoffs. Elite teams win Stanley Cups because they have a goaltender who makes them a big save when the defense fails. They didn't get that in Mike Smith against Chicago. They did not get that when you saw against the Hawks. So many times that little play where you would see that play behind the net, Edmonton's net, that'll pass out in front, where you would see Dominic Kulebeck left alone, or Taves, or Kane. The elite teams, the goalie would make that save to bail him out. Edmonton didn't get it. They didn't get that save. When that play was executed, it was a near automatic goal that entire series, and it burned Edmonton. So I felt that Ken Hall needs to go out, and he needs to go out next year, or just get just an average goaltender. Maybe it's an Aaron Dell. Just an average goaltender. Because right now, with Edmonton, Koskinen and Smith, if you're going into playoff series with those two nets, you're holding your breath that you can outscore the opposing team. Because if you're going to get into a 2-1 battle against, say, Toronto or Montreal, you're not going to win that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, especially with the shooting talent that these teams have. I'm surprised the Oilers didn't get in the Matt Murray sweepstakes. Not to say that he's lighting the world on fire in Ottawa, but if you're gonna, take a flyer on anybody, I think you went for a second round pick and a prospect. I would take a guy with 2 cups that's only 26, and injuries is the reason why. When his underlying metrics of like high definition saves or high danger quality stops were among the league's best, even in the years that he didn't perform as well. So I don't know the cap restrictions on that team. Especially when you have 2 guys north of 10 million. I think Larson's off the books at the end of this year. Got some questions on the back end as well. That's a flyer I would have assumed that the Oilers would have taken, but I don't think going back to you bringing up the depth of the Oilers, I like Tyler Yamamoto. I think he's a stud. Everyone knows Jesse Pugliarvi. Some people up until draft time and that World Juniors of 2016 had him number 2 over Laine, and that was it until Laine just started scoring wrist shots from the point to top Ched. I understand, but in his own right, big draft pedigree, kind of little bumps in the road, forks in the road, and little disputes within the organization. But if there's anyone that can untap that potential, it's playing next to the talents of RNH, McDavid, Draisaitl. So hopefully he'll get it going. I like Jesse Pugliarvi. He's a dog.
No, so do I. I liked him. I've liked him from day one here. I'm glad they figured some things out because the Chiarelli regime really turned him off on being Edmonton. He really did not want to come back to Edmonton. It took a lot of work to get him back here because that regime was constantly calling him back, calling him up, calling him down. He never got a permanent place in the lineup. And I don't know what Peter Chiarelli was doing, but yet
Peter Chiarelli sucks.
He is still in the running for jobs.
Plus, at the end of the day, it's still Edmonton. Ain't nobody clamoring to live in Edmonton.
Yeah, that's true.
This is a city where I keep telling you guys, come to the city. You know what? 10 years ago, before Rogers Place was built up, before the Ice District, the community was starting to be built, okay, I can agree with that. The downtown core of the city wasn't a place you wanted to be around. And I know it's revered here, but Rexall Place was not in a good part of Edmonton. It was not. You would go to games, guys. It was a part of town where if you weren't there to go see either an Oilers game or lacrosse or the rodeo, only bad things happened in that part of Edmonton. You were not going to be in that part of town if you were there to watch sports. So,
it's crazy. Back to the Peter Chiarelli thing real quick. Yeah. Guys are going to get jobs off of the fact of one measly cup, and Brian Burke, as a Leafs fan, 1 cup you're set for life. And Peter Chiarelli didn't even build that Boston team. Zdeno Chara gifted post lockout. The Leafs just handed over Tyler Seguin. A bunch of, Bergeron's a second round pick of the previous regime, and he had his injury problems. You didn't even think if he was going to get to that level, So Brad Marchand just develops randomly. He wasn't a Peter Chiarelli pick. I think he was a 5th or 6th round pick too, and just you catch lightning in a bottle. Tim Thomas is another one. Him being an elite goaltender for that Boston win. Like I believe he was playing, overseas
in Finland,
and in Finland, and injury problems plus Andrew Raycroft forgetting how to learn how to play hockey at the national league level.
Is it Tim Thomas MAGA?
You said what?
He's MAGA, right?
Yeah, he said he wouldn't go to the White House to shake Obama's hand.
Yeah,
because he doesn't like paying taxes. No offense to Obama, I just don't like paying taxes. I'm like, well, Obama didn't make up taxes, bud.
Yeah,
but
right. I'll ask you guys. We saw last year in the bubble. We saw sports taking breaks to play in support of Black Lives Matter movement, in support of injustice. But the NHL was among the last leagues to really do anything. We saw in the NBA take a pause. We saw MLB pause games. We saw MLS also too. WNBA and MLS. Those 2 leagues right there, and NWSL. Those 3 were the 3 best when it came to activism.
Yeah, shout out to
the NHL was they've been killing for years. For years, they have been killing it with the Minnesota Lynx. But the hockey, the NHL kind of dragged its feet along. They had, of course, Matt Dumba taking a knee and his speech before the first Edmonton-Chicago game. But you saw it, Alain Vigneault saying, I don't know what's going on. I don't watch the news. I'm busy with my team. You saw press conferences kind of avoiding it. And just what are your thoughts on NHL? They're trying to catch up now to an extent. There are certain things where they're improving, but it still needs more work. But what are your thoughts, guys, on NHL last summer being, the last one to do anything and being a follower and not a leader in that aspect?
Not surprised by it at all. Like, as you see the population of the NHL, and it's led by this old boys club, old white dudes, who, if it's not happening to them and it's not affecting them directly, they don't really think about it, right? And, we're talking about a group of people, like Black people, that have been oppressed for centuries, and now it's coming to a head. And as you mentioned, Alain Vigneault, like saying, oh, I don't know what's happening. He's being willfully ignorant. You understand what I'm saying? But what they don't understand is that he has the luxury of not knowing what's happening. You understand? Whereas we don't have that luxury. Like, we have to live it every day. We have to think about it. We have to see it. And that's something that he doesn't have to think about as a white male. And unfortunately, the NHL is full of white males. We have all been watching the game for decades now, and we see it. As much as we like the game, and I think we can all agree that we all love the game, but we may not like the league as much as we like the game itself. And that's one of the reasons why. You know what I mean? And them dragging their feet, it doesn't surprise me. I see the things that they're doing now, but one thing I don't really like is that most of the things that are happening now in terms of equality and equity and all those things are happening at the team level, but there's nothing league mandated that I've seen, and I could be wrong, but there's nothing league mandated other than them putting the Willie O'Ree sticker on the back of the helmet, which I like, but I don't think that should be limited to Black History Month. I think it's something that, like, we need to celebrate for every, like, why do I know everything about Guy Lafleur and Maurice Rocket-Richard, but I don't know anything, I don't know enough about, Grant Fuhr and even Willie O'Ree himself and all of those players. So I think those things need to be celebrated in July. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Negro Hockey League, a black league invented, Black players invented the slap shot, like all of those things. Like, those things need to be highlighted not only in February, but in March, April, May, June, July, August, September. You know what I mean? But it doesn't surprise me that the NHL is doing it. And I just hope that they get their shit together and start recognizing these people fast, especially if they want, like, it's in their best interest. Like, I don't understand. It's in their best interest to even get Black people interested in the game and in the league. Because hockey in especially in the United States, it's very niche, right? It's only in a few markets that it's really, really, really booming. So it would be a lot better if they can get places like, they fucked it up in Atlanta twice, but Atlanta's a more majority black city. They can get it back booming in Atlanta, and then places like where there are other majority black cities, like the black population of Washington D.C., for instance, which is another majority black city. Philadelphia, the black population of Philadelphia. I know Chicago. Chicago has a large black population too, so they can just expand it to like that population, and black people will love the game. It's flashy, it's fast, but a lot of them don't know about it. But the NHL has done a shitty job of inclusion, and acknowledging the plight of black people within the cities that they operate in.
I'm gonna
and
drop
it starts from the ground up. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say I'm gonna drop a little bit of my personal opinion on this too. Obviously, when the NBA started doing their thing and Major League Baseball started doing their thing as well, like, of course, it was like it took as it was previously stated, the NHL literally dragged their feet on this. That was something that bothered me like significantly, because it's like, you say you want to build the game towards build the game for everybody, and that includes women, and that includes black people, that includes Asian people, that includes like say people of like other sexual orientations, like for example people who are transgender, people who are gay, people who are bi, people who are queer. And it's like, what are you doing to push that forward? And it's problematic because the response that the NHL gave right after everybody else had started doing it, it was just like, oh, okay, well, the black people are doing it. Like, what? Like, the black people are doing it. All the other minorities are doing it. Like, rah, 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 let's do it too. It's like, that's kind of a very tone deaf and very whitewashed response. And it's a very negative, it shows that, like, it's a very negative connotation with the league at that point, because it's like, you're sitting there saying, like, okay, oh, I'm gonna do something, but like, I'm only gonna do it if say all the other minorities are doing it. It's like, you're just following a trend at that point. And the NHL really needs to stop, think, and realize that instead of following a trend, why don't you just set a trend and like be the pioneer that you're supposed to be? I don't appreciate the fact that like when they did the reverse retro jersey unveiling, they had like 3 minorities in that commercial, and they were like light. They were basically lighter than like say they were lighter than my nose, and like, or like lighter than the palm, like as light as the palm of my hands. And I'm not saying that as a joke. Like, that like it was that serious. Like I nearly openly threw up in my mouth when I saw that, because it was like, how are you going to sit there and promote equality in this game and then literally pull off a display like that? Like, that was just downright disgraceful, like on the league's behalf. But obviously, like the whole hiring of like a black woman in the executive office in the NHL, of course, more black players are starting to become more prominent in the league. Of course, Quentin Byfield being like the highest African American to be drafted in the NHL. Like, I mean, there's some strides, but it's like, it's not enough. It feels like you're only doing the bare minimum. And it's like it's kind of like how affirmative action came in. It's like, like, we give black people their reparations, or we give black people their just due, and then it's like, okay, you know what? Like, we're done. And it's like, no, you need to be doing a lot more than what you're doing right now. And like, until that, like, I wouldn't say until that narrative is met, but until that is like actually fulfilled enough to be like, okay, you know what? Like, yes, there's some genuine like honest growth with all multicultural communities, and not just the black community in general. But like, as long as there's that steady growth, like, it'll show that like the league actually gives a shit. And as of right now, it's still like, I know somebody from the league is probably listening to this right now, but like this really needs to be heard. Like, the NHL really needs to step its shit up, especially when it comes to black people. And like, it, like, until that day comes,
I hope they're listening.
Yeah,
But like until that day comes, and like until like the NHL can basically sit down with the Hockey Diversity Alliance and be like, hey, we're actually gonna like literally overturn our nonsense and our bullshit and be like, okay, let's bring you into the fold. How can we improve the game? How can we make sure that everything's more inclusive? Until that day comes, hockey is doing fuck all right now. And I'm saying that with my whole chest. Like, you can come after me, you can come email me, you can do what you want, but like, until you do anything, you ain't fucking doing shit. Excuse my language.
I would say this to follow up on Dave's point. I think the NHL's lack of awareness when it comes to inclusion, diversity, even just having the awareness to know what's going on in today's social climate, the social climate of 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, is a symptom of a bigger problem, which is not only just the NHL as the biggest entity in hockey, but hockey culture as a whole, and the lack of representation. It is the most expensive game to play. It is arguably one of the most racially difficult games to get involved in, play, get equipment, get ice time, get on teams, get on better teams if you're good enough, access.
Not to mention the insurance.
Part of me, I don't want to say it's the insurance, the culture in the locker room. Once you are a minority playing the game, once you are a woman playing the game, once you're a different orientation playing the game, it's almost as if it's by design to keep hockey looking, acting, feeling a certain way. And it's why hockey fans, hockey players, former hockey players love that old adage, I miss how it used to be, or this is the right way to play, this is how it used to be done, this is what's respectable. And it's not, and it's in the form of the lack of awareness in the game from the NHL level might seem like it's the worst, but there are worse racially dismissive things going on within hockey culture in the NHL than just, we don't acknowledge the Hockey Diversity Alliance, we don't acknowledge Black History Month past a patch on a helmet. It's the way that they treat players. It's the way that they prevent people that look like me and you from even having access to the game. It's them making sure our moms and dads can't afford the game, or only offering one measly scholarship for that one token per team or per league. And that's the kid that gets the most abuse on the ice from opposing teammates, in his own locker room, from his own teammate, et cetera, so on and so forth. So I look at the NHL dismissing, for example, the Hockey Diversity Alliance, when that's a wonderful opportunity to make things right. Here are our minority star players in the National Hockey League are willing to put their money where their mouth is to grow the game, to make the coaches, front office, to damn near to the ticket people know that this game is for everybody. And the NHL couldn't even match that energy, or even half-ass match the energy like some of the other pro leagues do. Even the NFL was like, all right, we're going to start kneeling. Like, at least pretend like you give a fuck. And that is, it's not because the NHL doesn't feel like they have to. They just generally don't want to. They want the game to stay the way it is, a old boys club where the next star of NHLers are the sons of former NHLers, which are affluent, heterosexual white males that are rich, go to the same country club, they play for the same 2-3 teams, they're going to GM and coach the same 2-3 teams. And that's just,
they vote Republican,
I guess, the way it is. And so for a change to happen, go ahead. And so I think for a change to happen, we can't. Yeah, absolutely. And it goes to the way that the owners vote, the way that they treat their community, the way that they abandon certain parts of their community that might be more racially ambiguous than others. And so if you want to see change in the game, it's not going to be a slow growth. It's not going to be a please notice us. It's going to be like a big fuck you, the wrecking ball that needs to happen. And it's got to be something seismic, catastrophic. That's what gets changed. It's an uncomfortable change. It might take a superstar, top 3, top 5 NHL player that happens to be black saying, man, F y'all, I'm sitting out the year until y'all do something, a la NBA style. Like, or, you know, I'd like to say that they even kind of did it the whole league after the shooting of George Floyd, I believe, when all the NHL players said we're going to boycott. It's going to take stuff like that where it's, all right, now it's hurting our pockets. This is a consensus. Yo, what the F is going on? It's going to take that type of movement to bring about change within the league and within hockey culture, rather than here's a patch on a helmet or Happy Black History Month tweets. It's
Right.
Some shit's got to go down, you know?
Exactly. And you know, I look at the game and you know, it's a thing where it's very performative where, you know, okay, great, you're putting the patch on for Willie O'Ree. Or, you know, it's teams skating out in pride tape. Okay, what more are you gonna do? What more are we going to do to make our black our black fans welcome? Our fans from the LGBT community. What more are we gonna do to make them comfortable? Because the NFL I think is one of the first leagues to have women as coaches and women from the LGBT community on their coaching staff. We don't have that in NHL. We do not have that on the bench. We barely have any black assistant coaches. We saw Joel Ward on the bench in an emergency situation on the bench for Vegas Golden Knights because he's one of the coaches for Henderson in their AHL team. We saw Mike Greer as a coach for the Devils. We saw Paul Gerard for years and years be a coach for the Flames and the Avalanche. And I never once heard Paul Gerard's name get mentioned for a head coaching gig. And by the way, Paul Gerard played in the NHL for the Minnesota North Stars in the 80s. Paul Gerard is of that ilk, but Paul Gerard's name never, ever comes up for a head coaching job in the NHL. I never hear his name mentioned, not once.
And Avry, to follow up on your point there, I will say this: within hockey culture, it is easier to navigate the waters, to get up in the ranks as a random white guy in a different profession, like Coach Cooper of the Lightning.
John Cooper, yes.
John Cooper, a former lawyer that just said, I want to coach. To be a black person to infiltrate hockey coaching, hockey front office ranks, you had to have what's I'd like to say prerequisite is you have to have played in the National Hockey League, and it has better have been damn near 10 seasons. You had to have been the top 1% of the sport to even get your cup of coffee. And then, well, we're going to start your ass in the minors. Granted, that's where a lot of people get their start, but it almost feels like the minors can be a death sentence, not only for players, for coaches, unless you're the top of, you got to be lucky like a John Cooper to potentially be a head coach one day with no NHL experience. Now imagine a minority or a woman trying to accomplish that same goal. And it's not only just in coaching, but also in the front office. To be a black man to get to the top in the pinnacle of front office or coaching success, the prerequisite is you have had to play in the NHL and have had to have been a household name in the NHL, whether that been you fighting, you penalty killing, 10 plus seasons. And it's like a John Cooper can say, I don't want to be a lawyer today. I want to coach hockey. And within 5 to 10 years is coaching a Stanley Cup team. Granted, he deserves it and he earned it. But how many guys love the game, know the game, maybe were not afforded the opportunities to play at a high level, because hockey is a very expensive sport, can have that chance where if they're good enough, have their name in the raffle or have their name in the hat for those positions. So it's a good point that you brought up that the Joel Ward, long career. If Anton Carter, long career. Again, like the guys that would get their cups of coffee had to play 10, 15 years in the NHL. So
right. It's ridiculous, guys, just about to hail you up the battle in the game if you're not a straight white male. And you mentioned exclusion. I look, I've been in a lot of locker rooms, and language there isn't a very isn't welcoming. I see someone like Brock McGillis. Brock McGillis was one of the first pro players to come out as being openly gay, and Brock's a good friend of mine. Brock is someone who will mention, hey, we need to improve this diversity, and someone will come into his mentions and drop the F word. Not the other one. The other one's like, wow, we're still gonna refer to somebody as that. Like, that is where there's still so much work to do when the response to an argument from Brock, which is valid, is to call him a homophobic slur publicly. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Yeah,
It really is.
And I don't want to say that it doesn't happen in other sports, but what sport makes it more obvious that you will be discredited and denied because of the race of your skin, or the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, or the genders that you identify with?
Like, it's ridiculous. It's something. But you know what, guys? I do want to end on more of a more of upbeat note. So we'll do something you guys did to me. We'll do a little bit of rapid fire questions, which, when I was on your show, guys, it was hilarious. I did not expect to be asked cowboy boots or Air Force Ones. That caught me off guard. Oh God! Brilliant.
It must be because you're from the prairie.
That was just me. That was just me being me. Like,
let me stretch for this.
You know what? For the record, I do own a cowboy hat. I do have a denim shirt, and if I do go to Stampede next year, you're gonna see me in both.
You have to put that on the gram.
Put it on the gram. You're gonna do numbers. You're gonna do absolute numbers, and it's not gonna be for your reason.
We're gonna post it to our OnlyFans, bro.
Hey, what's my OnlyFans login? What's my username again?
Somali Boy 69.
We're gonna have to collaborate there. We'll split the profits.
Yo, instead of OnlyFans, we're gonna call it OnlyMans.
OnlyMans. OnlyMans.
Dave's always good with the one-liners, man.
Yo, don't kill me. OnlyMans. That's jokes. All right, let me get into that. All right, guys. So, all right, Toronto. What is the best spot in Toronto for some roti?
For some what?
Roti.
Ali's Roti on Queen Street, Queen and Dufferin, Parkdale.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
I haven't lived in Toronto. I haven't lived in Toronto since 2004. So.
Okay, Reese.
I was gonna say something different. I was gonna say all wins up in like North End of Etobicoke, out near like Rexdale and Finch, or sorry, Highway 27 and Finch.
Okay. All right. Okay, Reese, you've been in the States too long, Reese, this one. So I'll go. You've been in America for too long.
Wherever one of my favorite rappers, Nav, eats. If Nav goes there, I go
don't care about Nav.
No, mute him right now.
Wherever the brown boy goes.
Right now. I'm sorry. No.
Hey, brown man's from Rexdale. Wherever he eats, it's good enough for me.
Shout out to Rexdale. We don't rate now.
Yo, straight good.
Shout out to Rexdale.
Yo, that one that'd kill me. All right, next one. Favorite Black Micheller of all time?
I got PK.
PK? All right.
I got PK.
Ginla. I got a Ginla for me.
I'll go low hanging fruit and say Ginla.
Next expansion in NHL. Where's the expansion city going to? Next city.
It should be a second team in Toronto, although that's never going to happen.
The Leafs won't let that happen.
Yeah, Leafs will never let that happen. Second team.
I could see Quebec City. Quebec City getting another.
Yeah, Quebec City would be a great one, I think.
I'm gonna go against the norm here.
I'll give you a states one too. Houston. Okay, Houston.
Houston's the next logical answer, to be honest, from a financial standpoint, population
it's pretty much Houston. It's like Houston for me, or say the Maritimes, because like you got a really big population out in the Atlantic too, right? And like you could create a very big rivalry with like
but the Maritimes ain't got no money, bro. That's the problem.
What better way to generate money?
To add to that, I got two more to add. Either Hartford gets the reunion, or Maine. Northeast hockey is really big in the States.
Interesting.
And they got money too. It's only a matter of time. So
put a team back in there again. Okay, all right. All right, guys. Next, all right, two more for you. Favorite movie from the 30 for 30 collection of ESPN?
Two Escobars.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, Two Escobars. For those who don't know, the Two Escobars was about Pablo Escobar. And I can't remember his first name, but the young man who played for the Colombian national team. Andres Escobar, sorry, played for the Colombian national team as a defender. Had an own goal against Team USA in the World Cup. When he went back to Colombia, he was unfortunately killed. So they talk about the culture of the drug cartel and how they were intertwined directly from Pablo Escobar to Andres Escobar. It's a sad story, but it's a really, 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 really good one.
For me,
I'm gonna say that you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay.
This is a little bit out of my depth here when it comes to hockey, but like it's the Ric Flair edition of 30 for 30. That was beautiful in itself.
Okay.
That was really good.
That was good too.
That's a good one.
Hey, Avery, I gotta shout out the first episode, the Wayne Gretzky one too. That one was amazing.
Yes, that was the very first one.
Yeah.
Which is surprising that ESPN did the first one on the Gretzky trade.
Yep.
But I'll say actually my favorite one is the tie between either Once Brothers about the Vlade Divac and Petrovic relationship.
That one was amazing too.
That was a good one. Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah,
and
that was beautiful.
One is, this was the XFL.
Yeah, the XFL was wild.
Those
investors are wild.
Like anyone who knows me in Edmonton, they know. Like my Edmonton friends know. If you want to know anything about the XFL, talk to Avry. I know like everything about the day one, how this demise, the teams, the starting quarterbacks. Like I'm the guy to talk to about XFL.
So you were one of the 5 people that watch it beyond the first game, then.
I did. Yo,
they should give you season tickets when it gets back, man. You gotta hit up the Rock right now.
Yo, Dwayne Johnson, Danny Garcia, give me some season. Give me a franchise. Yo, let me own one of those teams. Let me be an owner of an XFL franchise, 2022 for real. All right, last question for you boys. Last question. All right, who takes Drucker Richard Trophy this year?
Austin Matthews. Come on, fam.
Okay.
Austin Matthews.
Dude, just
is cheese eggs good?
Like, come on, fam.
Potato breakfast food.
They all go. They're on brand. They're on brand. I'll give them that.
Fam, the brand is strong, and we are constantly on brand. The brand is strong. It's Austin Matthews. Next question, fam. I can do this all night.
Do we love Caribana?
Yeah.
You know what? Real next question. Real next question, actually. When do we see Caribana return? Next year or 2023? When's Caribana happen?
2022.
I'm saying 2022. But I'm being cautiously optimistic. But I'm saying 2022. And you know what?
He's cautiously optimistic. I'm very optimistic. 2022, we back.
And when it gets back, I'm playing Mass like I did in 2018. So I'm playing Mass, bro.
Yo, honestly, I'd say 2022.
I actually got a little story. Speaking of Caribana, and this is pretty on brand for hockey. One Pernell Carl Subban usually played Mass in the summertime in Caribana.
Yeah.
I've one summer right after he signed his extension with the Montreal Canadiens that year. See this guy, kind of big guy, rolling through the crowd, bumped it. Oh, sorry, dude. Oh, sorry, man. Looked up. It's Subban. Full costume, gold hat with glitter all over him. He's chilling. I say, "Yo, what's good, man?" He's like, "Yo, what's good, man?" It's all good. Yeah, man. Shout out to
that guy.
Man of the people, man, and a yard man too. So
shout out PK, man.
Yo, shout out PK. Shout out our boy Wayne Simmons. Shout out to Wayne Simmons, the Scarborough man of the Leafs. My boy Wayne Simmons, longtime buddy of mine. Gotta give him a shout out as well too.
Yeah, man. Big up Wayne Simmons from Scarborough. Big up PK from Rexdale. All the whole crew, everybody.
Set up the meet and greet with me and Wayne. I'll buy that boy a shot. 1800 or Patron, whatever you want. Don Julio, whatever Wayne Simmons want. Come on, man. Set it up.
Yo, you better buy
set it up.
Shots, eh?
All right.
I will buy all y'all shots, but he gonna get 2 shots because it's Wayne Simmons. That's my guy. You know.
Yo,
come on.
Jokes. So boys, before I think up, I gotta say thank you guys for doing the show. I appreciate y'all. So let you guys plug your social media accounts. It's your time to plug all that content, guys.
Darren, go first.
Who want to start?
Yeah, me. Yeah, man. Follow me on Twitter at Freetown30. You can chirp me from anything about music facts, hockey, soccer, but don't talk shit about Chelsea because I might block you. Raptor, anything like that. Yeah, I'm just fun-loving guy, and follow us on our socials at Toronto Third. That's Toronto and then 3RD on Twitter. And yeah, listen to the podcast. Big up to Sticks, our brother. He's not here
Shout
right
out Sticks.
now, but we love him and we big him up anyway. Shout out to Sticks.
Yo,
Davey next.
You can follow. Yeah, you can follow me at Dave's Barnett. You can follow that on Twitter. You can follow that on Instagram as well. I talk a lot of shit on Twitter. I do a lot of retweeting. I'm a huge wrestling fan, so like, yo, if you want to like literally talk shit about like how Kenny Omega is the worst world heavyweight champion, like, yo, I will literally take that. I'll literally take that tweet bar none. I'll also take bare tweets about how WWE is apparently a lot better than AEW, but I'm taking that fight for another day. I also talk Raptors. I also talk Leafs. I talk Scorpio things too. So like, yo, come at me. Let's go.
Stay tuned. He's also gonna be having brand new waves in like 20 days.
Yeah.
It's gonna be crispy.
Oh
He's gonna change the Avry everything. He just chopped the hair down. You know, he just got set up.
Listen,
Give it 2 weeks.
It's oh, is he gone? The hell?
Yo.
Oh, did it kick Avry off?
Yeah, it looked like it did. Yo, listen, he said his Twitter name was Dave's Burnett. Listen, the S is for seasick, because that's what he's gonna do. Get them waves. He's gonna get them waves.
Okay,
hey,
women.
You gotta do the wave reveal. You ever see those wave reveal videos?
I'm like, ooh. You gotta get the wave reveal, fam.
Oh, that's gonna be crispy.
Stop this, man. Like, yo,
I don't know where
the fact that Avry literally jumped out of his own show and just dipped out for like a hot minute, like, yo, that kind of scares me a little bit still.
Nah.
But
Reese, shout out your socials, man.
Oh yeah, Reese Zoe 101, just because I believe in nostalgia. Shout out Jamie Lynn Spears Zoe 101, Reese Zoe 101. I talk Leafs, Raptors, UFC, pop culture, politics, economics. You know, I'm a nerd of everything. I like everything. You'll see me tweeting back and forth with these dudes all the time. You know, I'm a Manchester United fan as well. You know, top of the table, I think number 2 right now, back in Europe. Well, back in Champions League. You know what it is. So
students of the game.
Zoe 101.
That's all we are. We're students of the game still.
Hey y'all. After Reese promoted his socials, huge thanks to the guys for hopping on the podcast. And hey, I didn't dip from my own show. My laptop battery died, so that's why you didn't hear me towards the end of the show. But it was still a blast having the guys on. Finally, we'll promote the social accounts for Jordan. You can follow him on Twitter at Mr_Sticks, spelled STIXX. Anyways, that's it. That's all. Follow me on Twitter at Avry, at AVRY. And don't forget to subscribe to Avry Sports Show on Spotify, SoundCloud, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts.